Okay, so this is another audio test using the Android camera, or the Android phone as a camera, and you can see that the quality is definitely there. It's been using the application called, what is the application called? I've forgotten it now. Uh, DroidCam. And what we're looking at here is our situation hasn't changed. The game has actually just been put on hold because we've got some discussion going on, and we've actually finished the discussion. And the game is actually completed. Actually, the truth of the matter is it's a completed test, so it was successful. We learned some important things here. Namely, we learned that there are issues with the concept of the game BattleTech, and they are very apparent when not because of the rules or because of the crew, the people that were behind it, but because of the concept. The concept has issues, and the issues are these mechanical machines have enormous limitations and questionable value. They have actually extremely questionable value. Why? Because of their cost. If you were to imagine the price of one of our Star Wars AT-STs that we're looking at in the distance here, imagine the price of one of those is, even for a future economy, a ginormous amount of money. I mean, as much as a whole province, an industrially progressive province, a profitable segment of an empire, to manufacture that thing is extremely expensive. And therefore, you really don't want these things to be wasted. But, on the other hand, the other side of that spectrum is they're not expensive at all. Why wouldn't they be? Well, because at this point in the future, perhaps the manufacturing of these things is so efficient and costs so little and involves so readily available resources that the cost is like, a car. Well, a car isn't very expensive. Say it's $40,000, $35,000 for a car. A cheap old car, maybe $15,000. You see cars on sale for $8,000. I mean, it's a car. It's just that it's old. Well, so what we've illustrated in this demonstration is that these two mechs, which were the only mechs up until the arrival of that wasp in the background there, were dancing around each other because of the way the system works. They couldn't melee each other. They couldn't, because like they're birds. All they have is their feet. And they can butt each other with their heads, but that's going to cause damage. So they actually don't want to do that. They try and kick each other. They try and trip each other. They try and do something to get the advantage of the other one so that it becomes inoperable. They can't keep shooting it. Well, they can keep shooting it, but at this close range, they can't get an angle on it. It's the same as in the movie Fury. If the German Tiger had gotten to a situation where the Sherman couldn't get a shot at it, it would have gone on forever because they couldn't penetrate. They could not penetrate, even at, well, supposedly, even at point-blank range, they could not penetrate with their 76 millimeter gun, which, by the way, was a 76 millimeter. It wasn't a 75. They couldn't supposedly penetrate the Tiger. Well, I'm not so sure that's true. They did not have to actually get a rear shot with that 76.2 millimeter gun, because let's face it, it was not a normal 75 millimeter on that Sherman. This was a Sherman Mark IV, late issue of World War II, and that's the example here. So what do these guys got looking at each other? Say there's the twin pulse lasers or whatever they are. They're a beam weapon of some kind. It's a projectile encased beam. Plasma, whatever you want to call it. It's going pew, 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 right? Well, they can't get a shot on each other, so they're dancing around. And that is where we're at with the concept here. These guys can't engage in melee. So what are they going to do? Run? Oh, gee, sir. What? We really can't decide what the outcome is here because we can't get a grip on this guy. Well, what's the suggestion? Okay, look, climb out. That's a two-personer, a two-person vehicle. You climb out of this thing. Get on his vehicle and start ripping it to pieces. That is about the only thing you can imagine that would happen. Say he gets out with a blowtorch. Hey, take this blowtorch, go over there and cut that actuator on the guy's ankle or on his hip. Are you saying I should climb onto? Yes, climb onto the mech. What's he going to do? He can't hurt you. He can't electrify the hull. Well, maybe he can, but I don't think they've done that, strangely enough. There we are. And so that's where we're left at. And so what we're looking at here also is the fact that we've created our own hills, which are nice. But the other ones that are available, the ones you see on the left here, that have the nice green and flocking and the nice stone coloring, those are done very well. And the person we bought them from, I don't remember where it was. It could have been on eBay or something. But that's what we're talking about. Look how the difference is. I mean, ours isn't flocked. It's just painted styrofoam. Nice, not bad. It's a butte color. It's kind of like, Monument Valley kind of a thing. But his are advanced. And if those can be done, if those can be replicated like that consistently between purchase, in other words, those aren't just cut by hand. Those are molded. And if those molds are the same, and if that is true, then each one of those things that we buy will be identical. And that's the whole point of doing a simulcast between two locations of the same game. Now, obviously, some of this terrain can't be replicated. Some of it is custom-made. The little stone outcroppings, for instance, I don't think those are molded. I think those are just actually cut on demand and sold, I think, on eBay. But that is what we're talking about. So that's where we're at. The terrain, better to buy it than make it. Why? Because if it's consistent between purchases, that the pieces are identical, then they can be used, even if they're not entirely identical. As long as they have roughly the same footprint, then it's okay. Then you can buy them and not worry about it. But they should have close to the same footprint. And how do you know that? Well, look at the size of the hexagons they occupy. And that is the point. They have to be identical from location to location so that the simulcast of wargame events can be relatively good and consistent. So that's where we're at. And that's what we're talking about in this episode. And that's where we... so that's it. Rambling. Starting to ramble. Time to button it up. Okay, so there it is. Until next time, a little more info on Hex Command Nova, and maybe perhaps another test. We'll do some prettying up as we add more terrain here, because we're testing the various aspects of the terrain in regard to these vehicles, and we're looking for other things that we can have in this era. So it's basically science fiction, and we're wondering about field military weaponry. For instance, if it was World War II, you'd see anti-tank guns, anti-aircraft guns. You would see different types of military vehicles out there, and that kind of stuff. And if we're going to need that kind of stuff for Hex Command Nova, we're starting to, well, we've been looking for it, but we are going to put it into play. We'll add maybe some rivers here and a bridge and make this look a little different. And then we'll add some trees, I think. Anyway, that's about it for this one. We'll come back.